What if I told you? Someone powerful has already made a decision about you, and you don't even know it yet? Not a small decision, not a temporary one, not something they're still debating. They have already decided you belong in their future. And here's the part that changes everything. They're not asking themselves if they should move toward you. They're calculating when. Because this is not someone who acts from confusion. This is someone who plans, someone who observes, someone who thinks 10 steps ahead. They don't move impulsively, and they don't chase blindly. They choose carefully, and they chose you. This isn't light attraction. This isn't surface level interest. This is someone whose presence carries weight. Someone who doesn't need to speak loudly to be felt. Someone whose silence says more than most people's promises. Their attention is rare. And somehow, out of everyone around them, you became the one they can't remove from their mind. They keep asking themselves, what am I supposed to do with you? Not because they don't want you, but because they don't understand how you managed to affect them so deeply without even trying. You didn't chase. You didn't beg. You didn't compete. You didn't shrink. You simply existed, and your presence shifted something inside them. This person is used to control. They're used to being the strong one in the room, the respected one, the one people adjust around. They may hold professional power, financial stability, or strong social influence. They're not someone who feels small in their world. They're used to evaluating others, studying intentions, keeping emotional distance so they never lose control. But you disrupted that balance. Not loudly, not dramatically, just by being yourself. You stayed in your own energy. You didn't revolve around them like others do. You didn't act impressed. You didn't seek validation. You held your own gravity. And that unsettled them. Because for the first time in a long time, they didn't feel completely in control. You made them feel seen. And being truly seen is uncomfortable for someone who hides behind strength. They've been watching you more than you realize, observing how you move, how you react, how independent you are. They've been measuring whether you are easily influenced or emotionally grounded. And what they discovered both impressed and intimidated them. You can't be easily controlled. You don't lose yourself. You don't bend just because someone powerful shows interest. That's what created the tension. That's what created the fixation. And here's where it gets deeper. This isn't just attraction. It's respect. And respect is dangerous because attraction can fade, but respect stays. When someone like this respects you, they take you seriously. They see you as rare, valuable, different. Not just someone to enjoy in the moment, but someone to build with. And once that switch flips in their mind, they don't just move on. They start planning. They start calculating. They start preparing. Yes, there's intensity here. There are fantasies they don't talk about. There's a possessive streak they don't show publicly. There's a pull toward you that feels stronger than they're comfortable admitting. But they don't want to step toward you halfway. If they move, they want it to mean something. They want certainty. They want power in the decision. And that's why the energy feels quiet but heavy. Because the decision is already made. You matter to them. You're not random. You're not temporary. You're not just a distraction. You are someone they see as long-term. So right now, they're not wondering whether you belong in their life. They're figuring out the right moment to step in a way that feels undeniable. And when they do, it won't be small. It won't be casual. It will be intentional. Have you ever felt someone come close? Like they're locked in on you. And then, out of nowhere, they pull back and act distant? And it leaves you sitting there thinking, what is this? Do they want me or not? Are they serious or are they playing games? Listen carefully, because what's happening here is not what most people assume. This is not confusion. This is not mixed signals. This is not a red flag moment. This is something much more specific and much more intense. This is a person trying to regulate themselves because you affect them in a way they didn't expect. Because respect creates permanence, and respect creates emotional investment, and emotional investment creates vulnerability. And vulnerability is the one thing this person has spent years training themselves to avoid. They know how to be confident, They know how to be bold. They know how to walk into a room and own it. They know how to lead, decide, control, dominate their emotions, and keep their life steady. But what they don't know how to do is feel deeply and still feel safe. And you, without even trying, bypass their defenses. You didn't force your way in. You didn't chase. You didn't beg. You didn't manipulate. You simply showed up as yourself. And something in them recognized you. That's why they switch. One moment, they're intensely focused on you, almost like their attention is glued to you. They watch you. They listen differently when you speak. They remember small things you said. They seem alert around you. Then suddenly, they go quiet. They get distant. They disappear emotionally. They act like they don't care as much. And that shift can mess with your head because you start thinking the connection isn't real. But the truth is, the connection is real. It's just real in a way that scares them. They're not backing away because they don't feel anything. They're backing away because they feel too much, too fast. Their emotions escalated quicker than they expected, and that loss of emotional predictability is deeply unsettling for someone whose identity is built on control. See, people like this build their life around being unshakable. They don't like surprises, especially emotional surprises. They don't like being caught off guard, especially by someone who makes them feel exposed. And you make them feel exposed. Not because you did something wrong, but because you awaken a version of them they usually keep locked away. A softer version, a more emotional version, a more instinctive version, a version that actually wants to be held, chosen, seen, and not just admired. And that version is not easy for them to protect. So when they feel emotionally naked, they can't tolerate it. They can't control it. And when they can't control something, their nervous system does what it has learned to do for years. It retreats. That's why the distance comes in waves. It's like they come close, feel everything. And then their system panics and says, back up, back up. This is too much. So hear this truth clearly. They are not afraid of you. They are afraid of themselves when they're around you. Because around you, they feel their own intensity, their desire, their emotions, their longing. And that is a terrifying experience for someone who has survived by staying composed and guarded. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever caught them watching you when they thought you weren't paying attention? Like, you feel their eyes on you. You look up, and they look away. Or they act like they weren't staring. Or they suddenly get busy with something so it doesn't look obvious. If you've experienced that, it wasn't accidental. That wasn't just casual interest. That was emotional investment. Because they weren't just looking at you. They were memorizing you, your expressions, your energy, the way you respond, your independence, the way you hold your boundaries, the way you exist without begging for attention. They were studying you the way someone studies something valuable, something rare, something they don't want to lose. And there's a reason for that. Before someone powerful makes a move, they need to know it's irreversible. They need to know, if I step into this, am I ready for what it will awaken in me? And they're reaching that point now. Because the truth is, they have a real crush on you. It may have taken time. It may have grown slowly at first. But now it's not small. Now it's obsessive in a quiet way. They think about you when they're working. They think about you at night. They replay moments. They overanalyze little details. They imagine conversations that didn't happen yet. They wonder what you're doing. They wonder who you're talking to. They wonder if you'll still be there when they finally step forward. And yes, the desire is there too. Not just physical desire, though that's strong. It's emotional desire, intellectual desire, energetic desire. They don't just want your body. They want your mind, your attention, your loyalty, your presence, your softness, your life. They want to feel you fully in every layer, physically, emotionally, mentally. And they're sitting there wondering, how long do I have to wait? How much longer do I have to hold back before I can finally claim this? Because deep down, what they want isn't something temporary. They're aiming for a real reunion, a proper one, not a quick moment, not a halfway situation, not a secret connection they can run from. They want something that feels complete. So here's the question you've probably asked. If they feel all of this, why didn't they act immediately? Why didn't they just come forward? Why didn't they just say what they feel? Because there is anxiety. There is fear. There is inner conflict. Their old emotional certainty, what they used to rely on, has been shattered. Before you, they knew how to stay emotionally stable. They knew how to manage themselves. They knew how to keep things predictable. But you disrupted that. You awaken questions they never had to face before. Questions like, am I really ready for love that's this real? Can I actually show up and not sabotage it? What if I lose control? What if I get hurt? What if I choose them and they don't choose me back? What if I open up and it changes me? And it sounds strange, but psychologically it makes perfect sense. When someone realizes the value of a connection, two things rise together: the desire to secure it and the fear of losing it. Those two forces collide inside them. So instead of moving impulsively, they pause. They retreat. Not because their feelings disappeared, but because their feelings became too serious to mishandle. And that's the part you have to understand about people who carry power, pride, and control. Their silence is not emptiness. Their silence is strategy. Many people misread strong individuals. They assume silence means they don't care. But often silence means I'm preparing. I'm thinking. I'm trying to approach this the right way because I don't want to ruin it. And yes, they have been preparing. But preparing for what? Preparing to step forward without making a mess. Preparing to come to you with something solid, not emotional chaos. Preparing to make sure that when they choose you, they can actually stay. Because here's what's also happening: there's been a misunderstanding. They are not showing you what they truly want. They are not showing you how much they're holding onto you internally. They are not showing you how deeply they've fallen. So from the outside, it can look like they're unsure. It can look like they don't care. It can look like they're just testing the waters. But the truth is, their intentions have been misunderstood. They are holding back not because they don't feel love, but because they do. And they know once they cross that line with you, it won't be casual anymore. It will change them. And that is exactly why you feel their energy even when they're quiet. Because even when they're silent, they're still connected. Even when they're distant, they're still watching. Even when they're acting cold, their mind is still pulled toward you. So if you've been wondering, why do they keep doing this? Here is your answer. They are trying to master themselves before they come close enough to be seen. They are trying to calm the storm inside them before they speak. They are trying to make sure their next move is not impulsive, because this is not a small connection to them. This is the type of connection that can become permanent. And deep down, they already know that. They're holding back, but not for long. I know it looks confusing. If they feel this much, why aren't they doing anything? Why all this emotion and still no clear action? Here's the truth. It's not because they don't care. It's because they care more than they expected to. What started as attraction has grown into something deep. It's not light anymore. It's not casual. It's rooted. You've become someone they think about constantly. Your presence lifts them. Your absence unsettles them. And this is someone who is usually in control. They're used to being the strong one, the dominant one, the one who doesn't get overwhelmed, the one who doesn't lose emotional balance. But with you, they did. That's why they feel stuck. Not because they're unsure, because they're overwhelmed. Your energy affects them more than they show. When you're warm and open, they feel safe and confident. When you pull back or become distant, their whole inner world shifts. They start overthinking. They feel urgency. They feel like they're losing something important. That's when jealousy quietly enters. Not in a toxic way, in a protective way. They don't like competition. Not because they're insecure, but because they already see your value. When they recognize something rare, they don't want to risk losing it. And here's the part you need to understand. They don't see you as temporary anymore. They've started imagining you as someone permanent in their life. That's why they're careful. They're not going to rush in emotionally and risk rejection. What they fear most isn't a small no. It's losing access to you completely. They're scared that if they move at the wrong time, they'll shut the door forever. So instead of acting impulsively, they're preparing. Think of someone training for a marathon they've never run before. They're not running because they love it. They're running because they've decided they want to win. That's them. They're building emotional strength, gaining clarity, making sure that when they finally step forward, they don't lose you. And the shift is already happening. They're no longer confused about what they feel. They know. And once someone like this becomes sure, they don't stay silent forever. They act, not halfway, not carelessly, but with intention because they've already decided you matter. Wait, what if the real shift isn't about how deeply they feel, but about what they're finally ready to do about it? Because something has changed. For a long time, this connection may have felt like it was living in the background. There were feelings, yes. There was tension, chemistry, emotion. But there was also distance, silence, pauses, moments where you wondered, are they ever going to act on this? It may have felt like the energy was stuck in the thinking phase, intense, but unmoving. That phase is ending. What used to be preparation is turning into action. What used to be internal is becoming external. And the most powerful part of this shift is that they are not moving toward you casually. They're not drifting in because they're bored. They're not reaching out just to see if you're still available. They are coming from a decision. This is not maybe energy. This is not confusion. This is not half-hearted curiosity. This is already chosen energy. At some point, quietly and privately, they made up their mind about you. And that internal choice is now starting to reshape their behavior. When someone truly decides, their reality begins to align with that decision. You'll notice it. You won't even need them to explain it in big speeches. You'll see more consistency, more effort, more emotional openness, more presence, because they are shifting from observer to participant. Before, they may have watched you from a distance, thought about you constantly, replayed conversations, imagined what things could be like, but they held themselves back. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was timing. Maybe it was uncertainty about whether they were ready for something serious. But now, something inside them feels settled. They don't want to watch anymore. They want to be involved. They want to build. And this shift feels irreversible. Once someone admits the truth to themselves, especially about love, they can't go back to pretending it's casual. They can distract themselves for a while. They can try to minimize it. But when the realization becomes clear, it changes everything. This person thinks about you more than you know. You cross their mind during ordinary moments. When they're driving somewhere alone. When they're lying in bed at night. When they're doing something simple and their thoughts wander. They imagine conversations. They imagine closeness. They imagine what life would feel like if you were fully part of it. And the distance? It doesn't feel neutral to them anymore. It feels uncomfortable. It feels heavy, almost unbearable at times. Every moment without you feels more intense now because they've stopped pretending they don't care that much. They care, deeply. And this isn't just attraction. It's not just desire. It's not just chemistry. This feels long-term. They see you as someone who belongs in their future, not as an experiment, not as someone to try out, not as entertainment. They see alignment. And when someone recognizes alignment, especially someone strong or emotionally guarded, they don't treat it lightly. They protect it. They start thinking seriously. They start asking themselves hard questions. Am I ready for this? Can I show up the way this connection deserves? Can I handle the responsibility that comes with loving someone like this? Because here's the truth. They were never deciding whether they wanted you. They were deciding whether they were ready for what wanting you would require. Wanting you means stepping up. Wanting you means consistency. Wanting you means emotional availability. Wanting you means vulnerability. Wanting you means giving up excuses and distractions. For a while, they may not have felt ready for that level of commitment. They may have hesitated because they understood that this connection wasn't small. It wasn't something they could casually enter and exit. It had depth. It had weight. It had meaning. But now, they're ready. And that readiness changes the energy completely. The shift you're about to feel is subtle at first. It may start with small behavioral changes, more direct communication, more initiative, more willingness to talk about the future, more consistency in how they show up, less hot and cold, less disappearing, less emotional hiding. They're moving from silent feelings to visible action. This isn't about control or ownership. It's not about possession in a negative sense. It's about emotional claiming, recognition, selection, clarity. It's them saying internally, this is my person. This is who I choose. And when someone strong chooses you, it's intentional. It's deliberate. It's not impulsive. They don't make that choice lightly. They think it through. They measure it. And once they decide, they don't want to lose it. There's also building energy here. This isn't just about romance in the present moment. It's about legacy, about creating something stable, about imagining shared plans, shared goals, shared life. They don't just see you in their weekends, they see you in their future. That's why the distance has started to feel like torture to them. Because when someone sees you as part of their long term vision, being apart from you feels wrong. It feels unnatural. It feels like something that needs to be corrected. And correction requires action. So if you've been sensing that something is about to shift, you're right. You're entering a phase where hidden intentions become visible, where emotional restraint turns into movement, where someone who once held back begins stepping forward with clarity. There's something they've been keeping inside, a truth they haven't fully expressed, a depth of feeling they haven't openly admitted, and that truth is going to surface. Soon, when it does, things will look different. You'll stop questioning their seriousness. You'll stop guessing their intentions. You'll stop wondering if you imagine the connection, because their actions will start reflecting their commitment. This doesn't mean everything will be perfect overnight. It doesn't mean there won't be conversations to have or adjustments to make. But it does mean the energy is no longer stuck. It's moving forward, intentionally. And I want you to understand something important. You didn't force this. You didn't chase it into existence. You didn't manipulate it into happening. They came to this decision on their own. They chose you freely. That makes it stronger. That makes it real. So if this resonates with you, take it as a sign that you're not at the end of something, you're at the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where distance shortens, where clarity replaces confusion, where effort replaces silence. The connection is becoming solid. And once someone decides like this, once they align their actions with their feelings, they don't easily turn back. Because choosing you wasn't random. It was intentional. And this story, it's just getting started.